so we got to spend some time out in Moab this last week, and we got to ride St. George and also in Moab itself.
I think it was Slick Rock.
Slick Rock was the actual area that we were in, which is totally different riding from anything I've ever done, and I think it's different from anything you've done too.
Absolutely.
Right?
I mean, it's so different and unique out there. The traction and the rocks and the views is just totally different riding situation and style, really.
That's the thing that really surprised me. The traction is unlimited almost.
Yeah, I mean, you only need like this much of your tire to have a bite, and you can go anywhere you want. I think that was some of the biggest problem I was having is, down in like Tennessee, where I do probably most of my riding is you can't straddle the ruts to that extent. Like you need to be in the rut or way over. Like you can't just let a tire bite this much and it's going to stick, and it sticks. And at Moab, it's pretty wild.
It's just crazy different from anything we've ridden. But the real big thing is we went out there with 2 Pro XPs. We had a friend, Sam. He's been on the show and on the vlogs, and you had your new one.
Absolutely.
And basically picked him up, a week before we
left?
I
think a week and a few days. Yeah, I'm honestly surprised we were the only 2 with new machines out there, but we were, and I think we've convinced a few people to buy a couple of those new machines since we've been out there. But I do know that Jimmy from AMS had messaged me and said, "Which one did you have? The Ultimate, the Premium, blah, blah, blah. I want to order one."
So he's already looking.
He is. I think he placed his order yesterday with his.
So to kind of, I don't know, I guess bring everybody up to speed, if you're not necessarily following the Polaris lineup now, the Pro XP did not replace anything. It didn't replace like the Turbo S or any of the other machines. It's their new premium flagship model is what it really is.
Yeah, and I questioned myself big time after I already ordered mine if I should have went with the Turbo S for my style of riding. And the more I was learning about the Pro XP, I was nervous, and I thought the Turbo S is probably more fits my style a little bit better.
Right.
But knowing what I know now, absolutely not. I'm totally happy with it. Love the machine as a whole for sure.
Yeah, and I know in the time from when you placed your order, a few people had gotten theirs before you got yours just in the country, and some people were showing clutch problems and stuff like that. Yours didn't exhibit any problems.
No, not at all. And I believe that you're going to have those issues, and what happened is someone had an issue and it happened to make it online right away, and they ran with it, and then someone else had a similar issue and they got it online also and they ran with it. I mean, I only seen 2 or 3 of them of the post of however many machines they've sold, but I beat on my machine hard. I mean, I was not nice to it for the 3 or 4 days we were on it, and the clutch worked flawlessly. I mean, I have no clutch issues. I personally believe some of the hub issues they're having with them cracking hubs is because they're running an open wheel design. Like the wheel has no center to it. It's like 4 spokes that come in.
Right. It's kind of like 4 V's that come into the lug
there's
nuts.
no center hole to the wheel. Right. So for me, it was, I pulled my factory wheels off from day one and put aftermarket wheels on it. So I don't think I'll ever experience a hub issue, whatsoever. So, a few things. I read a review online that someone pretty reputable posted on the Razor Crazy page that they're super loud, they're super hot. Help me out here. What was some other things? The suspension was no good.
Yeah, the springs were sagged out from day one, and there's a few. They weren't thrilled about it. There's several complaints.
I don't know what machine they were riding, but it wasn't the same machine I was riding because that is hands down the heat issue. Polaris 100% took care of the heat issue in the turbo. The center console does get a little warm, but
nothing like I still have the old 18 style turbo, and mine is hot enough you can boil water in the cup holders.
It's a little the center console is a little warm, but as expected, you got cool lines running through the middle there. I do think that a quick, easy, slight modification to do something there would completely take care of it, but I don't personally feel like it's even a need to take care of at all.
No, maybe if you were riding out in the desert in the heat all the time and you just want to keep the heat to the bare minimum that you could, but in the old turbos, like for those of you guys that don't have them, when they were running and you were running them pretty good, you couldn't really touch that.
No, so we rode, it would have been last July for a bachelor party weekend, and I had my infrared gun with me. I infrareded between my seats was 167 degrees on my old turbo. Like, I was sick to my stomach riding my machine that weekend because it was so hot in the cab. It was miserable. I said that from that weekend on, I will never ride again when it's this hot because the turbo creates so much heat inside the cab on those machines. It was crazy. Now, I was running a full windshield that day. The next day I turned my windshield off and it did help. But in the Pro XP, I ran a full windshield for the whole first day and still didn't have the heat issue.
And it was 80-something degrees that day.
Yeah.
Not quite as warm probably, but I mean, it was a warm day.
The backs of my seats weren't on fire. The firewall plastic wasn't on fire. So Polaris did fix the heat issue in the turbos. Hands down, they fixed it. Engine noise. It's probably a little bit louder, I think.
But I would say not enough to really notice unless you're intimately
looking for. I'll tell you, I would have never even noticed it was any louder had I not been comparing it to a review I got in the past.
Right.
And I don't think it is any louder whatsoever. I think what makes it louder is the clutches vent and the intakes vent only to the inside of the bed on the new machines, not to the in and the out. So it's venting, it's sucking air in and blowing clutch air out, like, basically right on the inside. And I think you hear that.
Right.
You're not really hearing an engine noise. It's not so loud you can't talk to your passenger like the review was. It is. I carried on multiple conversations. The VP of Parts Unlimited rode with me one day, and we chatted the whole time. Just normal.
Without screaming.
And we had helmets on.
Yeah.
We were talking through helmets, and then we had a completely normal conversation. No issue whatsoever with the sound, in my opinion, at all.
Yeah.
Suspension. Whoa. Whole nother ball game compared to the old Dynamics. I had 18 Dynamics that I put about 1,000 miles on. This suspension is in a whole different book compared to that suspension.
It is extremely nice. Now, the tender springs on both the machines that we took out there are, I'm not saying they're collapsed, but there's not a lot of space in between the coils. That's designed that way by Polaris, from what they tell us.
Yeah.
But it's not bad. It doesn't feel like you're sagging the back end.
No, I don't think so at all. And if you get real in-depth with suspension, there's a reason those tender springs are kind of smashed that way. They work on a small impact when the suspension's drooped. I do think that tender spring swap is something I'll do in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I think it does lack a little bit of ground clearance that I would like to gain.
But see, that's for your style.
Yes,
also.
you're exactly right.
Whereas my style, I like to set them as low as possible. So
yeah. So the suspension is just on a totally different level. I mean, the old dynamic suspension was a little stiff to ride. Now, I was used to riding in Tennessee where there's 4 to 6 inch rocks everywhere and the trails are pretty rough, so on and so forth. Where we were in Utah was either a concrete hilly roadway, as Moab was, or a lot of sand dunes, a lot of loop sections, stuff like that in St. George. So I have no back-to-back comparison,
right.
But I'm excited because I already know it is a little bit softer than the old machine, so it should perform even more than I expect in Tennessee in my normal riding condition. I'm very excited to put it to the test there. The button on the steering wheel, used it to death. I think I probably about wore my button out this weekend. It was phenomenal. I could come into the whooped out section of the sand. I would just hold the button down until I got in there good. I let off the button and you would just float right across the top of it. I mean, we were running 60 mile an hour through those rollers. Like it was nobody's business and just flat as could be. So
yeah, the suspension is it's just amazing. They've done their homework. They've done it well. People are going to complain about it, but you have to also think they're designing this machine and the suspension to work in all scenarios, in all riding conditions, for all types of what people like in suspension.
Yeah,
so,
you're exactly right. And I think, like I said, I will add tender springs for the ground clearance. I did notice when we come back, my rear of my skid plate was rubbed.
Yeah.
Pretty significantly. But I was trying to have as most comfortable a ride as I possibly could get. So some of that was my fault. And if you watch any videos, you'll see there wasn't much obstacles that stopped me from going where I wanted to go. And,
right.
I think a full underbody skid plate will be in the near future once someone comes out with one. I think tender springs I will do. This is all building the machine to suit me in my particular riding style.
It's not necessarily a shortcoming of the machine. It's just suiting it to your needs.
You're exactly right. The machine as a whole is hands down the best handling, most horsepower, best brakes. I don't even talk about the brakes yet, but the brakes on those machines are phenomenal. I think you could about nose wheel them if you could get them to bite the traction, because the brakes on them are just phenomenal. The machine just goes. I mean, it just sticks and goes. So any of the other negative reviews I heard, I have no similar review in that. Mine are all 180 on a way more positive side.
So let's kind of approach this from a 3-stage way anyway. Your initial thoughts on it when you climbed in it. We're not talking about how it performed, but just you got a new machine, you sat in it, and you're kind of trying to learn this new machine. What do you think?
I thought it was ugly, and I still do think it's ugly to an extent. I have done some things to mine to try to help with the looks. I'm going to do a cage. I think that'll help a lot. But looks, I'm still not sold on the outside. Sitting in the seat, totally game changer, because the interior is extremely nice looking, extremely user friendly. There's storage and cubby holes all over the machine.
The storage was amazing.
Yeah, the storage is just crazy how much storage there is.
There's now a center console one, kind of like if Cody and I were sitting in it and I was in the passenger seat, there's like a center glove box.
With a 12-volt plug in it, which is awesome.
With a 12-volt plug.
I opted to already adapt mine to a USB style, so I was charging my phone in there pretty much the whole time. There's another cubby in the front of the gear shifter, kind of like most new automobiles and stuff have.
Right.
There's a cubby in the center of the dash, like a lot of cars and stuff have nowadays. There's a full glove box,
which is weather sealed also.
Yes, and these are just probably 3 times the storage compared to the old machine.
Yeah.
And I was using every cubby. I had something and everything going on, and it was great.
Because really the only storage that the older style ones had was the glove box, which wasn't easy to get into or see into.
A little itty bitty dry storage compartment.
And if you put a radio in that, you basically lose that.
So as far as my first initial things, I didn't care for the outside looks. I love the interior, and my first negative, and it's probably still my biggest negative of the machine to today after even riding the machine, is the visibility out the front is very poor.
That's true, but it's kind of an expected thing, because even the X3 is the same way, where when you get that more reclined, lowered seating position, you're going to give up some of that visibility.
Yeah, you're right. It's more the race car style seating position. As a matter of fact, I'm actually looking at a set of aftermarket seats to raise up, which is like totally backwards of what everyone else does,
Yes.
But if I can get myself up about 1 inch, I believe, I can see out the front that way. And that's, in the slow, super technical rock crawling situations, like I need to see where my front tires are going to be. That's something I really fought. And another thing is, when you pull up to a hill, it's already tough enough to see down them, especially when you can't even see over the front. It's hard to see down.
Right.
My machine does have the option for a front camera. Did not have a chance to get one installed, but there will be one installed, so I can see that. The old Dynamics, I did have the front-facing camera, and it's really nice. You can hit the button on the screen, and you can literally see your tires in the camera, so you know what is literally right in front of your tires. So that's pretty sweet, also.
You know where you're placing that tire for rock crawling and such. Yeah. So we talked just now about initial impressions, like you hadn't really ridden it. So now that you've actually put a few miles on it, what are some things that you really did like that maybe you weren't expecting to like so much?
There is more horsepower, and you can tell.
Yeah.
I didn't think I would, from what Polaris, what did they even put another 20 horse in it or something?
181 is what they said. So it's like 16 horse, whatever it is.
I wasn't expecting to be able to physically tell the additional horsepower.
Right.
And you definitely can. Another thing I wasn't expecting, and this is something crazy because I didn't even put a blow-off valve on it. I had one, but you can hear the Polaris blow-off valve working. It's pretty cool. Just from a factory machine, you can hear it working.
And it's not insanely loud, but you can definitely
hear it working. So the horsepower surprised me, the brakes surprised me, and the suspension just totally blew me away. I was almost in disbelief with how well the suspension worked.
Yeah. The thing I noticed, because I got to take one for a test drive when I was in Brimstone, the horsepower is very linear, very easy to use. It's not, like mine has a lot of horsepower, but it's very abrupt. Mm-hmm. I mean, it goes from normal feeling to a ton for that top RPM range. This is very usable, very, with good foot control, you can use the horsepower or not use all of it if you don't need it.
The steering wheel with all the telescoping and things that it did was great. I was able to get the steering wheel exactly where I wanted. I played with that a lot to find the sweet spot, and I definitely did. I'm really picky with noise and rattles. There's something in the steering wheel or the gauge cluster that has a rattle that's driving me crazy, but I'll find what it is and address that.
Yeah.
I'm not a guy that I hate. I'm the guy running around the motorhome putting stuff in places so it doesn't rattle while we're driving down the road.
Yeah, the steering wheel, I love the shape is not my favorite with the D cut off the bottom, but I love the smaller size because it's probably an inch and a half smaller than the previous ones.
You're exactly right. I thought I really would like the D style. It looks really cool, but driving super aggressive when you're throwing the steering wheel through your hands, you miss sometimes because all of a sudden it's on the D, not the round. So
it's just not confidence inspiring. I know at least for me, I never missed the grab, but it would be in that D, and I would go to close my hand and feel it not be there, and I'd have to move up to get it.
Yeah. So I felt the same thing in a super aggressive riding situation where I was really driving the car hard and a lot, and I felt myself a few times like, oh, the steering wheel changed on me. Didn't care for that. I know why they have it that way.
Right.
The steering angle is great. I think another review I read from the same person was it doesn't steer, it doesn't turn. Crazy, man.
It turns great. I like the quickness of it too.
It turns on a dime. Yeah, I mean it turns great.
Yeah. It might take a little bit more room to turn it around due to its extra length, but you're going to have it.
Yeah, and I didn't notice while riding that in any situation whatsoever where my old machine turned sharper than this machine. I honestly think this machine turned better than my old machine did.
Well, they did increase on the Pro XP the turning amount of the front wheels to kind of try and take up some of that slack of the extra length in it, because you're just going to have that. But all in all, I thought it steered great. It was, as effortless as any other machine I've ever been in. I like the size of the wheel, the controls, the telescoping thing is just amazing. Yeah. I loved that.
One thing that Polaris did also is they put a heavier power steering unit in it, so it accepts bigger tires and doesn't turn so heavy. So my 18 Turbo Dynamics, it had the old style power steering unit with 32s. It was almost like driving on no power steering.
Right.
And this thing, you can steer with one finger, and I've got 32s on it already. We put 32s on it in the parking lot the day before I even rode it. So.
Right. Yeah, I was happy with everything. I didn't get to put near the seat time in that anybody else did, but so yeah, let's move on to kind of maybe something that you found you didn't like as much as you thought you would, or just something that you didn't know about that maybe popped up, if there's anything.
So I guess my only negatives on the machine would be the visibility out the front,
right?
Which I think that can be adjusted with some aftermarket seats. I don't care for the seats. I didn't really care for the seats from the beginning. I think one of my biggest dislikes for the seat is they're just kind of ugly and plain looking. Players should have at least put some color in the seat or something like that. But the seats, with all the little different cubbies and compartments that the seats have, like
the voids in them.
Yeah, it's not uncomfortable by any means, but it kind of always feels like there's something on your back. Like you have a harness strap back behind your back somewhere.
Like your sweatshirt's rolled up and got tucked up behind you.
It feels like that. It's not uncomfortable, but it feels like there's always something there. We don't have that solid, form to your seat. So that would be my complaint there. One thing we didn't talk about, and we probably should have talked about at the very beginning, was that most terrible, awful idea Polaris had for a seatbelt.
Polaris likes their Click 6 stuff.
I don't know how anyone likes that stuff.
I don't like them.
So Polaris has come out with a new Click 6 where it's got a single retractor between your legs, and it's got this super contraption that runs all the way down the back of the seat, forward, blah, blah. We took them out at the very beginning. Yeah. I put real harnesses in mine.
The problem with the Click 6, and this is all our opinion, I think,
yeah,
and I think we share the same opinion, the only part that is ever secure on you are your legs, where what I'll call the 5th and 6th points come up over your legs to join into the lap belt, because all the rest of them move.
Yeah, but it's on your center of your thigh, which is weird. So if you're driving aggressively, you're moving your legs back and forth, and that's keeping your legs from moving back and forth. It's not at your waistline. It goes like at the center of your thigh. Don't quite understand. It's almost like a jumpsuit. Like, do I put my legs between these things, around these things? Like, right. It's totally weird. And at the end of the day, if you truly ride your machine in any dirt whatsoever, it's a recipe for disaster. I mean, yeah. It's just be like taking your automotive style seatbelt and throwing mud in and expect it to last, more than a half a year. It's just not going to.
They're just not going to. I'm just not a fan of them for that reason, and it lets your upper body move, because the upper body is the part that's on the retractor system that they have. It's just not for me. But I mean, I think a lot of people just throw harnesses in if those are not for them.
Each their own. A lot of people like them. They can reach the key and blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, like, yeah, you can reach the key. Your body's going to reach the steering wheel, too, if you start flipping and flopping in a hard situation. Yeah. I played with mine a lot, thinking maybe I could run mine for the weekend. Like, I jerked on them real hard, trying to get them to lock up. And half the time they lock up, half the time they wouldn't lock up. And I'm just like, I do not want to kiss the steering wheel this weekend. I do not want my face on top of the steering wheel. And that's, some people don't ride aggressive as I do, but at the end of the day, it's a seatbelt. It should hold you in the seat.
Right.
You know? Just not my style of seatbelt whatsoever. So those came out right away. We put harnesses in them. The new machine does not accept harnesses as easy as the old machine did.
Right.
It's got a little bit of a different, unique mounting style up top, which I think the harness companies will make a bracket that you can bolt the harnesses to that will make it easier, but so new, it's just not out yet.
Right. I mean, we're talking about a machine that's a week old or whatever. I mean, all told, they've been hitting stores for about 2.5 weeks or something like that. I mean, it hasn't been time for any aftermarket companies to come up with a lot of solutions yet. I know one of the things that you kind of complained about is the starting situation for that machine.
I thought my battery was dead a lot. So Polaris, for some crazy idea, thought they would only make the machine start in park or neutral. So no more just like putting your foot on the brake and starting the engine. It doesn't work. So you're out riding, you shut it off, you're in gear, high, low, whatever, and you put your foot on the brake, and it's like it will click. It makes a click sound when it does it. Just click, and you're like, my battery's dead. You're like, oh no, I'm not in park. Yeah. I did not like that. I am already working on a bypass switch of some sort that will allow it to bypass and start in gear, because in my eyes it's more of a safety issue that it can start in gear than not letting it start in gear. You know, right. If I kill it on a hill, I want to be able to just refire the engine, not have to jostle, find the right gear, put it back into gear. So,
well, especially if you don't have a gated shifter or something like that, and you're rolling or anything like that, because you're trying to get it into neutral, and now you can't get it back into a gear. It's way more dangerous, and I've never seen anyone start a Razor in gear that, it's just taking off on me. Yeah. I've never seen that happen, so I don't see the real point to why they did it.
I don't know why they did it, but they did, and it was a bit. It's a bit to get used to and learn. That's for sure. I did it a few times. I was like, oh man, my battery's dead. Oh no, I'm just not.
Not in it. Their appropriate gear selection. Yeah. So all in all, though,
absolutely, hands down, the best Polaris Razor I've ever drove in my entire life. They have fixed so many of the problems that they once had. I mean, the machine comes out with factory high clearance A-arms, high clearance radius rods, full skid plate, which that's new. Mm-hmm. It's still a thin one, or the factory thickness, but it's full. It's front to back. Like, for the money, they're expensive. There's no secret. They're expensive. They're one of the most expensive machines on the market. But for the money, hands down, to me, if you're going to buy a new machine, go that way.
I think it's actually a decent value for the money, because, like you said, you're getting high clearance A-arms and radius rods straight away, which, I mean, that's a significant cost upgrade.
We didn't even talk about the radio or the ride command and what they all changed on the ride command features and things like that. I mean, they come factory with a stereo. That's $1,000. I don't care what way you go. If you get any good quality sound whatsoever, it's $1,000.
Now because I rode with Sam quite a bit, and Sam has the upgraded Rockford Fosgate.
Sam got the upgraded radio. Yeah, he got the best radio money could possibly buy.
And his is super nice. I mean, it is really nice. It sounds good. Everything.
He needs a good radio, because all he does is drive around like a little parade vehicle and listen to music.
Sam treats his more like the standard rider would. You use yours more to its full extent.
I don't even know if I would call that the standard rider. That's like the novice beginner. He needs an 800, a 50-inch 800, I believe.
Oh, that's gonna burn.
with no cage. We wouldn't even need one.
But yours had the standard stereo system in it, right?
I added the sub.
Okay.
So standard radio, I did add the sub, and it's perfect for me. I mean, I'm not a big music guy. Honestly, the only time I ever do listen to music is in my Razor. I don't even listen to music when I drive on a vehicle down the road. I don't listen to music off my phone. I'm not a music guy.
Yeah. In
my Razor, I do listen to music. It's the only place I do. So for me, the standard radio, I did add the sub, was phenomenal. I mean, it's got tweeters. It's got two lower, like, cubby speakers. I did add the sub. Sam's has upgraded speakers in the front, rear speakers, sub. He got the big
went all
package.
out.
Yeah, his does sound better.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hands down. If we're riding next to each other, his radio's on, mine's on. His is better, but you know, it was quite the cost to get that.
I guess if you're a audiophile as it is, that you know you want the best sound and you want it to sound the best and be the loudest. That's the way to go.
Absolutely, yes.
But the factory one is nothing that's like, oh, I'm just going to throw this junk away.
And you know, one thing that they did add to the ride command, if no one knows what ride command is it's the in-dash navigation, and it shows you, you know, your location. You can sync your cell phone to it. There's all kinds of crazy stuff.
It's very similar to what's in modern cars.
Yes, exactly. I mean, there's even a function where you can link a GoPro to it and mount a GoPro anywhere on your machine and link it and see what the GoPro's seeing on your screen.
Yeah.
But one thing they did add was car to car. So now me and Sam can link up to each other, and he can be anywhere and I can be anywhere, and our keys are on, we can see each other. If my machine was here and his was at his house, as long as both our keys are on, we could see where each other are at.
Yeah.
There's a few times at St. George where Sam was taking care of some work phone calls, got disconnected from the pack, and it wasn't no big deal because he could look at his screen and see where we're at, what trail we were on, and he could just drive right to us.
Yeah, you could navigate there, and you knew that. And it's also got a feature to show if they're moving at all.
You're right. And I was watching, you know, I was leading, and he was kind of at the end. I was watching him on my screen to make sure, like, okay, he's still moving, he's headed towards us, you know what I mean? Like, I was kind of keeping an eye on him, and he was miles behind us, you know, and that was a pretty cool feature that you can.
That is,
really,
and you can do it between more than just two. You can have an entire group like that if everyone's got that same system. And
Polaris has it now on their youth models, so like their 170 and their 150 Ranger. You know, you can link your kid. You can see where your kid is in a park. So that's Polaris's technology has come so far, and that's a super sweet feature. And no one needs to be afraid of it because they got it figured out. It's awesome.
It worked flawlessly, at least as far as I know. You didn't have any problems, did you?
No, not one bit. Not one bit.
So. All in all, sounds like you're happy with your purchase.
I'm extremely happy with it. I'm going to do a full cage on it. I'm probably going to do a little bit different sound stuff. Maybe add a sound bar to mine. Also, I got to get rid of the rock sliders or tree kickers or whatever you want to call
Polaris ones are just
Polaris
too thin.
ones. Yeah, they look cool. And you know, going in and you buying these machines, Polaris accessories aren't really always the way to go. You know, it's better to go the aftermarket route, but they're so new. If you want a bumper to give us some protection, you have no choice but to go with the Polaris stuff. And me and Sam both bought the Polaris rock sliders or tree guards, whatever you want to consider them. And I thought I was only being hard on mine because I was doing a lot more stuff than Sam. But Sam's are in the same condition of mine. His are actually a little bit worse.
Yeah, they're all crushed.
He's not quite as good as driver as me, you know.
We'll go with that.
But they're just crushed, like flat like a beer can. I mean, they look like a Can-Am frame after a season of racing. You know what I mean? Just crushed flat. So they need to be a little bit beefier, and I'll probably just build a similar style that's made out of like 120 wall DOM that'll take the abuse.
Yeah, because they are it's a hang-up point on them. I mean, the frames in general, and it just adds protection, and you would think the protection would be a little bit stouter, but it just wasn't.
Yeah, you know, and that's the whole point of it is to protect your machine and protect your investment. You kind of seen this weekend how picky and anal I am about like not scratching things and loading things just right so it doesn't scratch. But on the trail, I'm a light switch 180, and it's if we roll down the hill, we'll fix it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I like to keep my stuff as nice as I possibly can and maintain the best I can, but I'm not afraid in any situation to use my machine at all. I mean, I bought it to ride, and that's what we'll do. So, but the Pro XP, in my eyes, gets a 5-star. It hit a home run. It's an awesome machine.
Yeah, I agree.
Awesome.